Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. This is a bit of an old music news piece right here, but I wanted to comment on it because I recently had a talk about Spotify on this channel where I was discussing the removal of white power and Nazi bands from the music streaming platform. But now it seems like they have gotten a little more extreme and a little bit more stringent about what they are allowing as far as music onto the platform, as the band Infant Annihilator has been removed from the streaming rolls on Spotify. Now, Infant Annihilator, in case you didn't know, they're actually a pretty popular band. I mean, you hit up this band on YouTube or pretty much any service where you can be listening to their music, and they have millions, if not hundreds and thousands of streams. And they're a pretty extreme act as far as their sound. I mean, it's got a mix of technical death metal and grindcore and slam, and it is very fast. It's very abrasive. It's very in your face. And it's not really all that surprising that a band like this, just as fast and as intense and as over the top as they are, would accrue the amount of attention that they have. Now, on top of that, the band's lyrics are super edgy, super nasty, super disgusting. But when you actually kind of take what they're saying into the grander context of death metal in general, a lot of what's going on here lyrically is not anything entirely new. Like, I don't know why Infant Annihilator, as nasty as their name is, would be singled out for removal above, like, any other popular brutal death metal band out there, like a Cannibal Corpse or like an Autopsy or a 6 Feet Under or something like that, whose lyrics are pretty fucking vile a lot of the time. You read into some Infant Annihilator lyrics, they're pretty disgusting. So here's my opinion. I know I fell on the side of Spotify when it came to the subject of removing white power bands for a myriad of reasons. It has more to do with than just simply being offended. Obviously, the views of a band like Screwdriver are offensive, but there's more to Spotify removing Screwdriver or a band like Screwdriver from their website than just people simply being offended. We live in very volatile political times where everything is super politicized. Like, every single fucking thing you do has to have some kind of political motive or ideology behind it, or some kind of overt racism, or like you're not even conscious that you're being racist. It's like secret racism in your fucking head or secret sexism in your fucking head. And to merely just have them on the platform is not just endorsing an offensive point of view, but also kind of that political viewpoint. I mean, Spotify can say that they don't all day long, but unfortunately, with the way that people see things and interpret things these days, they're going to interpret Spotify as supporting that point of view because they're giving it a platform. They're allowing it to be on their platform. Now, when it comes to a band like Infant Annihilator, there's literally no political controversy to them being on the website at all. Like, we're merely just talking about people thinking about the things that they're saying are just kind of really nasty and vile and in bad taste. And if that's merely the measuring stick that you're going to use to decide whether or not you should have a band on your platform, whether or not people are offended or people complain enough, or if the lyrics are nasty enough, I mean, where do you draw the line? If you remove an Infant Annihilator, you can remove a Marilyn Manson, you can remove as I said, those death metal bands that I mentioned earlier, you can remove a G.G. Allin, you can remove, a Nirvana song like Rape Me, and before you know it, like, we're back in the 1980s and we're putting rock bands on trial again. Not to say, not to make the most extreme slippery slope argument that I can, but it's almost like we're kind of going backwards here, You can't just simply say that something is removable simply on the grounds that it is offensive, because offense is in the eye of the beholder when it comes to, just good taste a lot of the time. Again, I get that racism sort of makes it a bit of a different animal for a lot of people, but we're merely just talking about lyrics that are like about dead fetuses, and it's like, gross teenager kind of edgy bullshit, which sure, it's not exactly highbrow, it's not exactly deep, but it certainly has a right to exist, and it has a really large audience. So not only is it dumb for Spotify to react so, I guess the word I want to use is so quickly, almost with like a bit of a hairpin trigger sort of thing, to just at least a little bit of offense, a little bit of outrage over some lyrics that some people find questionable. But also, I think it's a bad move for Spotify to limit access to something that clearly millions and millions and millions of people are listening to. Like, it was one thing to pull a bunch of obscure white power bands off of the platform that nobody fucking knew about in the first place, and that there was only outcry about after Digital Music News purposefully went onto the platform looking for those bands and then made an article about it, which caused the uproar. Before that article, and before, this desire to create outrage as a means of getting clicks onto your website, nobody would have even given a fuck about white power bands on Spotify, because nobody's looking for white power bands on Spotify. However, this band is actually really popular and has a very passionate following. And as a platform like Spotify and as a platform like iTunes, it's kind of your job to give people access to the things that they want. It's your job to give people access. It's your job to give people at least the illusion of choice. And when you do things like this, you're signaling to people that you're limiting their choice. You're not giving people what they want. You're not giving. You're not being an effective service industry. Because again, in the grander scheme of death metal, a lot of what Infant Annihilator is saying isn't really all that offensive. So I mean, if you're going to pull off Infant Annihilator, you've got to pull off half of the fucking Earache back catalog. You've got to pull off tons of the fucking Relapse catalog. You got to pull off tons of the fucking what other label am I thinking of? Metal Blade catalog. Because how many brutal death metal bands on their rolls, or death metal bands on their rolls, have had similarly gross, angry, disgusting lyrics? This article in Metal Sucks also brings up, a point of bands like Anal Cunt, Prostitute Disfigurement. Bands like that are still on the platform. Why is Infant Annihilator singled out? Fix your bullshit. This is bullshit. So Spotify kind of fucking up here. And while, like I said in my previous video, they have their right to remove things from their platform. They are a private company. They don't have to host bands like Infant Annihilator. But if you're going to play by these rules, be consistent about it. Remove all the bands that are as offensive as Infant Annihilator, or keep them all on. Pick one and stop being inconsistent morons. There you go. Here's another video next to my head, that video where I talked about Nazis being removed from the platform. Or you can click on the link to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. You're the best. Love you.